If a woman tells the court she needs $99,000 a month to maintain the life she's accustomed to, the question isn't just legal, it's existential. What does need really mean in a society that confuses lifestyle with survival? And how did we get to a place where luxury has become a weapon in the courtroom, dressed as necessity? Once upon a time, marriage was an agreement of roles. Man provides, woman nurtures, and both evolve together. But in today's world, that script has mutated. What was once mutual dependence has often turned into one-sided emotional and financial vampirism, especially when the relationship dies and the corpse is dragged to family court. A man works decades building wealth. She enjoys the fruits, as agreed. But when love fades, he doesn't just lose affection. He's now legally obligated to maintain her lifestyle, even after she walks away. The modern divorce isn't about fairness, it's about redistribution. It's about penalizing masculine effort and disguising greed as emotional injury. Let's break this $99,000 a month claim down. That's nearly $1.2 million a year. For perspective, that's more than a four-star general's salary, more than what many CEOs earn after taxes, more than what a skilled neurosurgeon takes home for saving lives every week. So what does this woman do to justify such a demand? She doesn't perform brain surgery. She doesn't command armies. She doesn't run global companies. She married. She was present in a wealthy man's life during his upward climb, and now that the relationship is over, she believes that presence should still be monetized, perpetually, as if love was a job with severance benefits. And here's the deeper issue. Our culture has conditioned some women to believe they are owed a continuation of luxury, not because they earned it, but because they once shared a bed with someone who did. This is not need. This is not survival. This is aristocratic entitlement disguised as emotional justice. Carl Jung spoke often about the shadow, the unconscious part of the psyche that contains our hidden desires, fears, and suppressed urges. In the context of this alimony drama, the shadow manifests as disguised greed. It's not spoken aloud, but it screams through courtroom documents, designer handbags, and veiled declarations of mental anguish. When a woman demands $99,000 a month to survive, she's not talking about food, shelter, or clothing. She's referring to yoga retreats, live-in chefs, personal stylists, and private school tuition she could never afford alone. It's about status preservation. It's about not wanting to return to a life without personal chauffeurs and Gucci pillows. Let's be brutally honest. The $99,000 figure is not just a financial ask. It's a flex. It's a way of saying, my time with this man was so valuable, it should pay me forever. It's a form of feminine dominance cloaked in legalese, and it's a prime example of the weaponization of femininity in the modern age. Now pause. Ask yourself, if a man asked for that kind of money post-divorce, how would the world react? Laughter. Mockery. He'd be labeled weak, a parasite, a loser. But when a woman does it, the court considers it. The media calls it empowerment. And society remains silent because the narrative serves a deeper illusion, that women are always the victims. This illusion is dangerous. It infantilizes women and vilifies men. It teaches young girls that marriage is a financial strategy, not a sacred bond. And it teaches boys that no matter how much you give, you can still be seen as an ATM with a beard when things fall apart. So what does $99,000 a month really buy? Superficially, it pays for homes, cars, private schooling, and vacations. But spiritually, it pays for a lie. The lie that comfort can replace connection, that money can mask emptiness, and that past love is an eternal debt owed by one soul to another. Here's what no one wants to say. Some women marry potential, not people. They see ambition, not affection. And when the marriage ends, they treat the divorce like a retirement plan. I gave you my youth, they say, forgetting the years he gave building a kingdom he now has to share with someone who's no longer his queen. But this isn't just about women. It's about systems. It's about family courts that incentivize destruction. It's about lawyers who feed off pain like vultures. It's about a legal system that calls this chaos justice, when in reality it's legalized emotional extortion. Carl Jung warned us, when the shadow is ignored, it grows stronger. The more we refuse to name the greed, the more it infects our culture. And soon, need becomes anything someone can convince a judge they're entitled to, no matter how absurd. This isn't feminism. This isn't equality. This is aristocratic greed dressed up in victimhood. And the irony? The same people who cry for strong, independent women also argue that these same women cannot financially stand on their own without a man's wallet post-divorce. It's an emotional contradiction wrapped in legal hypocrisy, and millions of men are waking up to it. The reality many men face post-divorce is more than just financial depletion. It's psychological warfare. They are not simply drained of wealth, but of dignity, of peace, of the sense that their years of labor held any lasting meaning. When the home he built becomes a battlefield, every memory becomes a casualty. In this paradigm, man is the mule. His value is not emotional, but utilitarian. As long as he produces, he is tolerated. Once the emotional connection breaks, he is reduced to a number on a court document. The shift from lover to laborer is instantaneous and chilling. And still, men stay quiet. Conditioned to provide, trained to endure, many accept this injustice with stoic silence. They pay, they sacrifice, they suppress their truth. But beneath the surface, something is shifting. The silence is cracking. This isn't bitterness. This is awareness. Men are waking up to the game, realizing that their worth has been hijacked by a system that sees them not as human beings, but as revenue streams. What's more disturbing is the social response. When a woman makes a ludicrous alimony demand, the media spins it as a battle for fairness. When a man objects, he's labeled petty, toxic, or controlling. This gaslighting effect poisons the cultural conversation, silencing the victims while uplifting the abusers. Let's be honest about the psychological manipulation embedded in these narratives. When someone says, "I need $99,000 a month to maintain my lifestyle," what they're really saying is, "I don't want to lose the image I crafted while riding on your ambition." Image becomes identity. Lifestyle becomes self-worth. And when that illusion is threatened, some people will use any means necessary, legal, emotional, or manipulative, to preserve it. Carl Jung would call this a defense of the ego. The ego cannot tolerate loss of status. It panics, projects, and demands compensation. This is not love. It's a tantrum. And the court becomes the stage where this tantrum is rewarded. We've reached a point where emotional maturity is not rewarded, but punished. If you are calm, composed, and logical as a man in court, you are seen as cold and uncaring. But if a woman cries, trembles, and performs distress, she is often seen as truthful, even when she's not. This imbalance reveals a deeper sickness. The emotional economy is rigged. Masculine restraint is interpreted as guilt. Feminine performativity is interpreted as pain. Truth becomes subjective, and justice becomes a theater. And while the crowd watches, men lose everything, not just money, but time with their children, ownership of their homes, their mental health, and often their will to love again. We are not talking about isolated cases. We're talking about a pattern, a system that perpetuates injustice under the guise of protecting the vulnerable. But who protects the men? Who heals them? The answer, sadly, is no one, except themselves. And that healing starts with naming the truth. The $99,000 isn't about survival. It's about control. It's about maintaining power even after the relationship ends. True equality demands that we ask hard questions. Why do we accept such absurd financial demands as valid? Why do we allow the weaponization of victimhood to go unchallenged? And why do we keep pretending that this is justice when it is clearly greed? Every time we stay silent, we allow this cultural sickness to grow. Every time we excuse it, We teach the next generation that love is a contract with a financial clause. We must do better. We must demand truth, not just for men, but for the future of relationships themselves. Because if love becomes a business, then heartbreak becomes bankruptcy. And in that world, no one wins. And in that world, no one wins. Yet this world is exactly what many are waking up to. Men are realizing that the promise of marriage no longer guarantees partnership, it guarantees liability. The emotional investment now comes with an exit tax. The spiritual connection now comes with a prenup clause. The modern vows have fine print written in ink only the lawyers can read. Behind the demand for $99,000 a month lies an even deeper problem. We have normalized the commodification of relationships. We treat affection as a service and companionship as an invoice. What used to be sacred has become transactional, and the price tag increases with the illusion of love lost. Let's strip the illusion further. What is truly being demanded is not money, but submission. The man must continue to serve even after the connection has died. He must continue to fund the fantasy even after the curtain has dropped. It is servitude, not support. It is emotional colonization. When men resist this arrangement, they're not being cruel, they're being sane. When they question this dynamic, they're not heartless, they're awakening. When they walk away from the legal madness, they're not abandoning duty, they're reclaiming dignity. But the world isn't ready for that narrative, because that narrative threatens an entire economic ecosystem. Divorce attorneys, family court judges, media industries, and even influencers who glamorize the soft life as an entitlement gained through strategic marriage. When men pull back the curtain, the illusion begins to collapse. Carl Jung wrote that individuation is the process of becoming whole, of confronting the shadow, integrating it, and living in truth. For many men, this confrontation begins in the ashes of divorce. It is there they meet their pain. It is there they see the truth of their roles. And it is there they begin the painful journey of becoming whole. Not bitter, whole, not misogynistic, awake, not hateful, clear-eyed. And in that clarity, they begin to see that some relationships were never built on love, but on leverage. They begin to understand that the emotional manipulation was never about affection, it was about access, and once they see it, they can never unsee it. This is why platforms that speak truth are under attack. This is why voices that advocate for masculine awareness are labeled extreme. Because when men speak, systems lose. When men see, illusions break. When men heal, profits vanish. So, let's ask the final question. What does a demand like $99,000 a month truly reveal? It reveals not just a person's entitlement, but a culture's sickness. A culture that measures worth in handbags. A culture that defines love by square footage. A culture that believes masculinity exists to be mined, taxed, and then discarded. But a new culture is rising. A culture of truth. A culture of sovereignty. A culture where love is not a financial trap, but a spiritual partnership. And in this new culture, men no longer apologize for wanting fairness. They no longer stay silent when being bled dry. They no longer see love as a transaction, but as a gift given freely, not extracted through guilt. To every man who has ever felt broken by a system that punished him for his effort, you are not alone. To every man who has ever been told that silence is strength, know that truth is stronger. To every man who has had his soul taxed through the lie of love, your awakening is not just valid, it is vital. We end with this. Love, when real, doesn't ask for $99,000 a month to continue existing. It doesn't need compensation. It doesn't file for alimony. It doesn't enter courtrooms with spreadsheets of emotional debts. Love, when real, walks away with peace, not paperwork. And if someone demands a fortune to say goodbye, maybe what you had was never love to begin with. It was a contract waiting to expire.